All right, our third assignment for our game design unit is deconstructing games. So deconstructing games is basically taking an existing game and breaking it apart, seeing why it's popular. Why do people like it? Why do you like it? What elements are in the game? Cracking it open and even looking at the code. What kind of code do they use? How does their code work? You're basically taking apart a game so you, as a game designer, can add those certain elements or include those elements into your game. Include the successful stuff that you like and exclude the stuff that doesn't necessarily work all that well. So again, for these assignments, like always, we start off with a what do you know? Just tell me again about deconstruction, why it's important to take apart an existing game. And that is our learning objective, to analyze or deconstruct existing games. And that's what you're going to be doing. Deconstructing games is about analyzing them. That's the big takeaway from our lesson here, our assignment, deconstructing games. So that's what we're going to be doing. So again, you have a true-false question here. Go ahead and answer that question. And then we are going to move on to these other questions. So the directions for the rest of this assignment, so it says directions, choose 3 different games you like, know about, or have played yourself, and deconstruct them using the following slides. Important thing to note here, I want you to deconstruct 3 games, but each game has 2 slides associated with it. So go ahead and double click in here, and you'll have to type the name of your game. Come in here, describe the characters in the game. Come over here, double click. What's the storyline or the plot behind the game? Next slide, describe the main setting. Where does the game take place? How does the game add entertainment? Think of humor, think of colors, think of action. How does it add entertainment? And then finally, how would you change the game? If you could just change one thing, what would you change about it? And it's going to be the same questions for the next 2 games. So you can see these are color coded. So this is game 2 for the green ones, and this orange or pale color is game 3. Same questions, deconstruct the game. Next, we are going to be deconstructing a game in Scratch. So there is a link here that you can click, and it will bring you to a Scratch game. So once that loads, you will see the shark game here. So let's double check, see that it's loading. It's loading here. Give it 1 second. Sometimes these take a minute, and actually play the game. You can play the game. You can move the shark using the arrow keys, right? We want to eat the fish. We don't want to eat the diver. Oh, I just lost points. So we want to eat the fish, not the diver. So we got to avoid, I lost another 3 points. So play that game, and then come back here and let's deconstruct that game. What elements do you see in the shark game? And what we mean by elements are things like fish, background. You know, what's in the background? Look at the background. What parts are in that background? What elements are in that background? It's not just a background, but what visual elements are there? What playable characters are there? What other movable elements are there? And just double click here and tell me. Obviously, a shark is one, right? So that's one element. What are the other elements of the game? And again, this is all part of being a game designer, is taking an existing game and breaking it apart. Next, you're going to take a look at some of this code from the actual shark game and answer this question. So the question is, explain what happens when the fish touches, let's put an S at the end of that. Touches the shark. Let's spell touches correctly. There we go. Touches the shark. So now we want to look at this code over here. And I would suggest using your zoom tool. So maybe bring it up to 200 so you can see that code. And remember, you can use the scroll bar here So you can see this is the code for the fish because there's the fish image there. So we know that this code is specifically for the fish. So what happens when the fish touches the shark? So let's say if touching edge, no. If touching shark, okay, so here's our code. We're just reading this code, right? So just kind of read through this code and deconstruct it or analyze it. It says if touching edge, that's not the code. If touching shark, here we are. So then what happens? The fish hides and the score changes by 1. So those are two things that happen if the fish touches the shark. So you would come back over here, double click in this white area, and tell me that. Tell me what happens. So this is a big white area, but you don't have to fill up this entire area with your answer. All right, just quickly analyze this code and tell me what happens. Same thing with the next slide. You can scoot the slide over. Let's read the question. Explain what happens when the diver touches the shark. So again, you can see the image here. That's the diver, and then this is the code. So go through that code and tell me what happens if that diver touches the shark. And then finally here, this is the shark code. Looking at the code, how does the audience interact with the game? So how does your player interact with the game? Look at that code, double click over here and tell me how the player interacts with the game. Look for stuff that talks about things being clicked and keys being pressed. And then finally, let's zoom back out. So if you want to zoom back out, click the zoom button here, the little magnifying glass, and click fit. Finally, tell me what did you learn about the game design process, about actually deconstructing a game, and then do your Google form review. Once you've done that review, you are done with this assignment.